What's up, everybody? My name is KSaun, and welcome back to the WDL. The WDL is the War of the Visions Draft League, if this is the first time checking out one of these videos, and we are shortly going to be heading into Season 4. It has been an amazing experience up to this point for me and a bunch of other people. It's been my absolute pleasure to be the commissioner and commentator for this league, and I'm really excited to announce that we are doing a Season 4 officially. The drafts have already completed. We are heading into Week 1 shortly here, but I have an amazing draft recap video for you today that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. We have a couple of familiar faces in this video, none other than SurfTaco, a two-time champion of the WDL, and JB79, who I think everybody out there knows, one of the greatest minds of War of the Visions and one of the most amazing people in the community. I'm really excited to bring this video with these two collaborating with me today. But before we jump into that, I want to go over the Season 4 rules, as some things have changed from the past 3 seasons. First of all, I made a summary on this page. If you want to know the rules here, anything in white is essentially the same as it was in Season 3. Anything in red is something that has changed slightly. You're going to see a lot of red stuff here. So I just want to kind of break this down before we get into the good stuff of this video. First of all, 4 leagues of 12 teams each. Last season, we did have 4 leagues. However, each one only had 10 teams in it. So if you can do the math, that means our overall number of players has gone from 40 to 48. 40 was already a massive undertaking, but I'm excited to announce 8 more players have been added to the league. It's going to be very, very cool. How am I going to manage that time by casting that many matches? Well, one of the changes for this season is no longer going to be a best of 3 for the regular season. It is going to be a best of 1. This means that overall there are less matches for me to cast, while also allowing more players to be a part of the fun. The season is only going to be 8 weeks long, whereas in the past it was 9 weeks, so just 1 week shorter for the regular season. And this adds up to ending up being 11 matches per player. Now, I know you're thinking, how is it 11 matches if it's a best of 1 at 8 weeks? There will be 3 weeks where every player has 2 opponents. So technically 5 weeks, every player has 1 battle. 3 weeks, every player has 2 battles. Overall, even if the weeks where you're playing 2 people, this still adds up to being less than when you used to be playing a best of 3 against somebody. So I think it'll work out pretty nicely. We use custom unit costs. We've done that ever since Season 2 here, and I think it's been a really nice change to the league. We use a 220 cost format for battle, which means you cannot just run your 3 strongest units. They have to fit our cost restriction of 220, and again, those are based off of custom costs. We do not allow mono element teams for this season. This was a rule that we went back and forth on and ultimately decided not to allow it. In future seasons, we may consider, but we are still not allowing mono element. You can use 2 of one kind and 1 of a different one, but you cannot use 3 of the exact same element. Playoffs are going to be best of 3 still. So if you guys were bummed to see that as best of 1 instead of best of 3, don't you worry. When we get to the end of the season, the cream of the crop players facing off against each other, we are going to go back to the series format, which I think should be really exciting. The top 6 teams from each division will end up making their own respective playoffs. And one of the biggest changes for this season is that we are introducing the all-new Champions League. Now, this is probably the biggest change to our league, the most substantial one that I kind of want to go over with you guys. Originally, last season, we had 4 divisions, 10 teams each, and the top X number of players would make the playoffs and then battle against each other while in the playoffs. The problem about this is that you have people from different leagues who are in separate drafts from each other facing off against one another, which means I might have a team with units that might even mirror somebody else that I play against. It means that the draft isn't necessarily quite as impactful. You don't have as much say over some of the situations versus players you're going up against. You never had a chance to counter pick them or anything like that. So ultimately, we are not doing inter-division playoffs. Every league is going to have their own playoffs. It's going to be essentially their own league. But we have one league called the Champions League, which is where the best of the best players reside. Over the first 3 seasons, we took the 12 best players in terms of win rates, threw them all in a division. So the classics, who always seem to be right up near the top there, SurfTaco, Turambar, Ram 9, some Sandrooster, MachenX, some of the newcomers. I say newcomers, but obviously staples in the scene like ReadyPlayerWill and JB79. All of those guys and a handful more are all in the Champions League, and it should be a hell of a lot of fun. The Rundal, Wazette, and Heinler leagues are still going to be there, but they're going to be considered what are promotional leagues. And what I mean by this is that at the end of the season, in the Rundal, Wazette, and Heinler leagues, after they finish their own respective playoffs, the top 2 teams of each of those divisions will promote into the Champions League for Season 5. The bottom 6 teams out of the Champions League will demote for Season 5. So not only are you trying to fight for your own respective cup, so if you are in the Wazette League, you're trying to win the Wazette Cup, but you're also trying to make top 2 so that you can compete in that Champions League the following season, kind of offering a up and down movement throughout the seasons. I do think this will enhance some of the battles for the viewers as well, as you're going to have top players facing top players constantly, and some of those players who are newer to the experience won't necessarily have to go up against as many juggernauts, which hopefully should make things more fair overall. Now, I think that's pretty much everything except for the bottom line here. No more draft tiers. In the past, when we did drafts, which every division has their own draft, like I said, we used to require every team to draft a specific number of units from certain cost brackets. It used to be a tier 3 unit would be anywhere between 60 and 30 cost. The tier situation was really difficult because units, for example, that were something like 60 cost often felt almost undraftable because of the way that it was structured. If you took a 60 cost unit in a 220 format, you felt really obligated to take an additional 60 cost unit. In that case, you've already used 2 of your tier 3 picks. It was really messy and ultimately wanted to try and give all the players more flexibility to draft who they wanted to draft. So we got rid of the tiers and ultimately said every team gets 750 points to spend on their units. Now, the amount of points that it takes to draft a unit is equal to their cost. So for example, if I wanted to draft Vega, who is a 100 cost unit, it takes me 100 points to draft him. Not every team will end up with the same amount of units on their roster. The maximum is 12, but I can say most teams will not end up with that many as there's just not enough points to go around. Teams that try to skew their team with a lot of high-end, high-cost units are going to end up with less units overall, which means even though they have some of those powerhouses, they're going to be less flexible, which could be at a disadvantage to doing some of those strategies. Hopefully all of this makes sense to you guys. I want to try and break down all the rules real quick in the beginning here. I will have timestamps down below, so if you breezed through this, no worries. I think the rest of the video is going to be really entertaining. I think it's a lot of fun with me, JB, and SurfTaco breaking down the entire Champions League draft. Before we hop into it, 2 quick things. 1, I'm going to have another video coming out after that of just myself breaking down the rosters of all 3 promotional leagues. And in this video, you're going to see a couple of errors on the team sheets that I created. The team sheets are going to change graphics-wise. I was trying to pump these out very quickly so we could get this video done. At the very end of this video, I am going to throw up the Champions League team sheets that are now correct at the end so you guys can see what those really truly look like. So if you see any errors in the video, I do apologize. But again, guys, I'm so damn excited for Season 4. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you guys enjoy the run along the way. I'm excited to be back. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I wanted to say one more quick shout out, massive shout out to all the members of the channel. You guys stayed members of the channel while I wasn't putting out videos. That means so much to me. You guys literally still spent your hard-earned money to support the channel even when I wasn't giving anything back. So thank you guys so much for everybody who did that. And without further ado, let's kick off the draft recap. All right, so I'm happy to welcome in my 2 guests here for the Season 4 Champions League draft recap here. We have none other than SurfTaco, our Season 3 WDL Grand Champion, and JB79, our runner-up for Season 3 as well. Super excited to have you guys both on. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing very well. You know, we've been chatting for a couple minutes. It's always good to be with you guys and talk to you guys, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy too. It seems like just yesterday I kind of caught the draft video with Ram and Turambar last season, and kind of got my feet wet with WDL for the first time. And yeah, excited that you're doing another season here.
Hell yeah. I'm excited too. SurfTaco, congrats on being on your second video now. 2 championships in 3 seasons is pretty impressive, especially last season. I mean, you ran the gauntlet, didn't lose a single series, which is pretty crazy. But JB79, shout out to you too, man. I mean, you joined in what was the hardest season possible. We had literally 40 people, had never gone through this before, and made it all the way to the finals. That's pretty insane. So, yeah, happy to have you guys both with today. So, anything you want to say real quick about last season? Any specific thoughts you had? Did you feel confident going into the finals? Like anything like that?
I mean, I'll just say the elephant in the room is, yeah, obviously I got really lucky with my draft. I was very happy with my draft and got Sephiroth in round 5. Everyone loves to talk about that. Didn't use him in the finals though. But as far as JB, he's just a man of honor, and he just wouldn't join a league like this and the 3rd season and just win it all. He's too humble. He's not somebody like Ram that would just win it his first season. He's just not that type of guy. And so I thank JB for going easy on me in the finals. But I really just had, I think the rosters just really kind of gave me an advantage. He didn't really have any lightning to kind of counter my water, and I just, it was a well fought match, but obviously I took it in the end. But he's a very good sport and great opponent.
Well, I appreciate that. But one thing I kind of noticed as the season went last year, like Perrine carried me a pretty long way, and it kind of got harder to use her because all of like the anti-strike tech was coming in like as the season was progressing, and of course a lot of that goes right into that red mage crew that you had. And then my other sort of big team with Kefka, you had the water angle as well. So I like you said, I didn't have the lightning to kind of scare you off of using it. So there wasn't really too much that I could do to counter it, unfortunately. The other thing I wanted to say about the draft last year is I kind of took a gamble on a couple of units that I was kind of expecting mid-season upgrades, and that was like Snow and Victoria Winter, which like just never came. Of course, we have them now for this season. I didn't draft either of them, but um, it was kind of an interesting thought that came to me.
Yeah,
So I was like,
I would
let
jump
me
in and
just
say if Victoria had snagged her 140, you win that first match. And as far as just the general draft, like when we drafted, Red Mage already had a slew of amazing VCs and synergies, and then they just kind of kept adding more and surprising global with even more Red Mage cards. And so I definitely got I got blessed in that regard as the season progressed, especially with anti-strike.
Hey, do you
no
guys
doubt.
want 6 more AoE resist red mage cards? I feel like the job group has so many of those. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they really haven't stopped because the cards have continued to come,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got a couple more coming that JP just got. So
Yep,
I believe
all Red Mage all day.
I believe they're finally getting a unit resist card. I think it's one of the new near cards. I think it's the 2P one if I remember right. But they're getting some.
now the Lucio card that just
Is that
came.
what it is? Okay, I remember
Yeah.
seeing that. But so yeah, that'll be an even better upgrade for them. But
I mean, they already had one for me. All you have to do is run water and ice and run Dark Odin.
there you go. We won't talk about those Dark Esper cards because they're way too damn good. But anyway, but enough about season 3. We're gonna head into season 4. And I'm sure that I've probably already broken this down a little bit in I know a stream I did and probably maybe even earlier part of this video, but just to share real quick some changes that are going into this season compared to the first few seasons, or rather season 3. This season we are doing what's called the Champions League, and the Champions League is essentially 12 people who basically were the best performers over the course of the first 3 seasons. So I keep track of win rates and all that kind of stuff, and essentially took the best 12 people, and they are all in the same division together. So this video is breaking down the draft of those 12 people, and I will break down all the other rules and different things about the season either later or before this in the video. But regardless, this is the cream of the crop in this video, which I'm really excited about. I'm excited to have you guys both kind of look at the draft with me, and should be a good time. So on the screen here, we have the very first round of our draft, and we're going to kind of just go through round by round. Going to let you guys call out some interesting picks, or even, just some thought process that you had on your own picks in each round. So first round here, anything come out to you, SurfTaco? Anything jump off the screen?
What jumped out to me was the prevalence of water in this very first picks, and I had hopes, very low hopes, that at pick 11 that I could snag one of those. Those three waters were my three first picks, hoping I could get one of them: Glassy Summer, Young Alday, and Ferris, and they were just all stolen from me. And so, props to you guys for jumping into the water. It just surprised me. I did not expect three water picks in the first round. I thought Belade by Turambar was an interesting pick. Halloween Lucio surprised me. Shouldn't surprise me. He's amazing, even at 90. But the water is what kind of jumped out at me right out the bat for this first round.
I'm just going to zoom in a little closer here, just so everybody can see it real clearly. But
I agree. That definitely took me a little bit by surprise. I was thinking that Glaciella would fall to me, to be honest with you. I didn't think that she would go top 5. And then I figured that JesusLBL would go lights, which he did. So I took my second favorite water unit, or second best water unit there, because I had been planning on taking Glaciella if she was there.
yeah, I think.
But same with you. I wasn't actually all that surprised about Lucio, though. He's been a monster for, pretty much since he came out, and there's a lot of good synergies you can build around his vision card that, makes it flexible. You can go with the axe connection, the warrior connection, even into knight, and, axe has some ties into spear and even fist as well. So it's kind of you can go a lot of different directions with it.
On the call out to Lucio Halloween here, I think anytime you can get a unit who's like kind of a meta unit for less than 100, it's probably a decent call to start your draft off that way. I know Edward Elric was very popular last season at 90 cost. And the teams that had him didn't win the whole thing, but like all the teams that had him did very well in general across the season. So that's not surprising. And a lot of times in this format, high cost tanks don't do super well. But Summer Glassy is just built different. So not surprised at all to see her in the first round. She's crazy. So
it was kind of a run on the support units here as well. Valade, Kadia, Shawls. Shawls number 1. I think that's, she's been an amazing unit as well. So I wasn't surprised to see her go early.
Yeah, respect to Coppola for that Kadia pick. I think it's actually really smart.
I like both the Valade and the Kadia pick. I think they're both really flexible and really good at 50 cost. And just starting your draft off that way, you can just go so many different angles with those two. So
it reminds me of my first pick, season 1, picking up Phoebe.
Yeah, that won you the whole thing. It was a smart pick. Cool. So let's head into round 2 here. So numero 80 starting off the second round with Rain.
Yeah, I thought the Rain was an interesting pick, to be sure. But for me, when I set out to do this draft, I had no intention of picking any 140. It just wasn't on my radar at all. And then I just saw everyone just kind of dive into water, steal my plan, and so I pivoted to Alaya. I'm feeling okay about it now, but that was not my intention. Obviously people are telling me that I turned on my blessed element of water by going Alaya the Alabaster, but I'm excited to use her. But yeah, it was definitely a pivot right out the gate for me.
You're just like Astrius, going to kill your own element. So.
Exactly.
A lot of people started going with the lightning in this round. Got Skahal was taken there just after your pick there as well, from Coppola, which I think he's gotten him a couple of times in previous seasons too, if I remember.
Oh, yeah,
right.
every season, I think.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, Skahal. Skahal's an interesting one. I think right now, he's borderline worth 100, but he gets a pretty awesome limit break upgrade, and I think that's one thing that Coppola is really trying to bank on and use him for. The other thing is it pairs perfectly with his first overall pick, grabbing that Katia in round 1. He's got a nice heal support to try and keep Skull fully healthy and keep that infinite courage up for him. So I think that was a smart combination between, obviously his first and second pick. The Rain thing, I'm not trying to throw shade at Numero because I am a fellow Greatsword user. I love Rain. I think he's awesome. I just didn't know if he needed to use a second round pick on him, but it's hard to say in these kind of drafts. It's not, I've said this before, it's not like fantasy football where you have a mock draft. You can do mock drafts or like you have a, this is the average pick they get taken at. You don't have that. You're kind of just guessing. I had a spreadsheet of where units got taken last season, but costs change a lot there, so hard to say. But the one I want to hear
let me jump
about,
in with my favorite pick of this round was 9S.
that was what I was just going to say.
He was on my radar, and yeah, I've always loved 9S since he ever came out. Obviously, he's seen a very big dip in playtime, but I think at 140 with a few reincarnations, at 50, he's going to be a powerhouse, especially in JB's hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was banking on. We're set to get that near collaboration within the next couple of weeks, so I thought he was one of the best values on the board. So I prioritized him, tried to get him ASAP. And yeah, I agree. I like his upgrades even more than what 2B got. So I plan on trying to use him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a stud. Talking about greatsword units that I like, I know I mentioned Rain. Huge shout out to Ravi's Winter. She's an absolute animal. So I like her a lot.
Yeah, that was a good pick. The Grifford pick from Maverick to go with Lucio was another really good one. A good value at 80. Can be kind of that pseudo tank and kind of helps cover his wind weakness. So I really liked that pick from Maverick.
Yep.
Luartha Winter, I think, is also a good value pick at 70 because she just got her upgrades. Not the biggest fan of her upgrades, but she can do a ton of damage. I'll say that. So
She was already powerful before upgrades.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the Grifford
course,
pick, I was going to say if you're going to say something, but talking about the Grifford pick pairing up with Halloween Lucio, I will say for Guild Battle the last month, I've been using an Axe team, and it kind of wrecks physical teams. A lot of that being Grifford and Halloween Lucio together. I think those two are going to be really strong. And not to get too far ahead, but pairs it up nicely with his next pick in the third round is Cyrell. So he's got a full 220 Axe squad in his first 3 picks. A man after my own heart. I love my Greatsword and Axe teams. So yeah, very, very cool by Maverick starting this off here.
That's kind of the advantage you have when you're picking at the bookends of the the drafts. Where I was kind of sitting in the middle, you kind of see a lot of picks that you were wanting kind of go by the wayside and some of your plans get ruined. Definitely he made the most of that first pick and he capitalized on his next 2.
Yeah, I think I was in a similar spot, obviously not in this division, but picking number 6 this season. It's definitely trickier. I have been kind of all over the board. I've had, I think, pick 3, I've had pick 10, pick 8, and pick 6. So I've had a little bit of a spread. Having the bookend is definitely the easiest, in my opinion. You do have to wait a really long time, especially now that it's 12 people in a draft instead of 10. But having 2 picks in a row is a really huge advantage, I think. And he did an excellent job in these first 3 rounds with it.
Yeah, those first 3 picks is an amazing first team for him.
I know that a lot of people were a little bit sad about Rosa being taken by ReadyPlayerWill here in this round. That was one that I had my eye on as well. I thought that was a good value at 50. Really good value support. And a few people definitely echoed that one.
I completely agree. Not only do I think just ice and water are just kind of at a premium over certain elements just because they synergize so well and we don't allow completely mono element. Rosa is a good healer. One thing I value very highly in my heal supports is having hate down. And there is that legendary reliquaries item where you can have hate down on a bow. So, I mean, she essentially has that in her kit. So even if you weren't running with a tank, she could theoretically sit in the back. If you build up some AoE res, as long as you're not going up against somebody with, a multi-target, single target attack, she might be able to take a hit or two, still be able to heal. So I think that's an absolutely amazing pick by ReadyPlayerWill. I think it's a good call out by you.
Then Taco grabbing that Lisette there to go with Alaya.
Yep.
That was the key one to get for her, I think. So you did what you needed to do there.
Yeah, someone that was never on my radar, and then obviously after the pivot, I think she slots in nicely. I've almost fully reincarnated her now, and she's sitting at, in a group with Alaya, she's sitting at about 13.5k health. I think she'll put in some good work this season.
There you go.
I'm not going to lie. There's a little part of me that wonders if numero 80 on this last pick taking Etra was just to not let you pick her. To have you give a full fist comp to Alaya. Maybe he's got other plans for her, but there's a little part of me that thinks he just didn't want you to be able to do that. So I don't know. We haven't really seen Etra anywhere, so I'm curious to see how she'll do. But heading into round 4, numero 80 won the draft right now. We can just stop it right here. It's basically my favorite unit with Shuts Out here. I mean, obviously trying to pair it up with Rain, but this is a unit. A lot of units went down in cost, down to 50 or so. I still think Shuts Out is one of the better ones. I'm totally biased, but I don't care. I absolutely love that pick. So
you did some work with him last season.
He's a stud. If you don't have courage removal, or especially like if you don't have healing power down, you get a lot more value than 50 cost.
So of course my pick here was Soul, the big 140 monster. And I noticed, as much as people were diving into water, the few teams that hadn't definitely started doing it after I picked him. MacRain and Sella and Maverick both picked up a couple of the better ones that were left over here.
I was surprised that he made it this far in the draft. He was never quite on my radar, and especially after picking up Alaya, he was not on my radar. But yeah, for him, Bartz, and Vivi to make it to the 4th round, I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, Vivi is a great pick. He's a monster. Stun is not one of these statuses that's more easily stoppable, I guess. I don't know how to term that, but there's certain ones, like Berserk or Stop or whatever, you can use certain TMR to kind of nullify that, but Stun is really hard to get around. I could see Vivi being really, really impactful this season.
And then,
yeah, I think that the only TMR that I know about is Minwoo's TMR.
Very nice. Good call out. Thank you for helping everyone else in the league.
My favorite pick of this round though was the Titus at 60. Ram 9 snagged him up there, big water ice player. And when you set up Titus right with that group haste, I think at 60 costs he's going to be doing some crazy work.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good one.
Hastega is strong. So heading into round 5, Maverick pairing up another water unit with his most recent one. He just took Chunek. So he's got multiple evasive units too. Chunek can also go with Halloween Lucio and on Halloween Lucio's card.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That's really, spot on for what he was drafting so far. Turambar got run on here, which we had a little bit of a scare where his dream abilities got taken away, but they were restored, I think, if I'm not wrong, earlier today. So
yeah, as of the patch notes,
false alarm.
As of the patch notes, it says basically by patch date tomorrow it should be fixed, is what it said. So we'll see. Hopefully.
And I think this is where ReadyPlayerWill was like, oh man, JB just drafted Soul, and I'm running a full team of Fist units. I better drop little Leela here to have some sort of answer to it.
Yep.
It's crazy how she's gone up. Back when I had her, 2 seasons ago, she was just 40.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's all the way up at 60. But I think she's, with that silence threat and just being a great magic tank and also great against Fists. I think she's worth it.
Silence is another one that's not easily resistible.
Yep.
I mean, there's a couple of. I mean, it's a little bit more than what we have for stun, but it's not easy.
And just with her percentage, if you just do runes and an Esper, it's like almost not quite enough.
Yeah, it's never guaranteed unless you're investing just basically everything you have into it. So yeah, I mean, silence is obviously extremely crippling. If you're facing a magic unit, you land that silence, they're basically useless. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
With this round, Ram 9 took a third unit of mine that I had really wanted, and I just desperately wanted this season was Kane. Thought he would pair very nicely with my Jaden the Celebrated, and I just didn't think he would go so early. But at 60 cost and with his 140, I guess he was too much of a value to last long enough for me to snag him.
He stole that pick from me as well because I was planning on grabbing that to go with Eld and 9S. That would have been my
Oh yeah,
220.
Nice.
should have grabbed him much sooner. And I'm excited to see what Machen's going to do with Cecil at 50. I think there's definitely some value there.
Machen
I was
is
about to say the opposite. I really
Not even worth it at 50.
I don't think he's good, no.
I mean, it's still he's a UR unit at 50 cost. If you invest a few reincarnations, I don't know.
so Cecil is
Yeah.
Cecil has one kind of like unique thing about him that is not really on other units, at least as far as I'm aware. Maybe somebody else has it, but he can give like a physical barrier to two of his other teammates. He starts with his own physical barrier basically to start the fight. So if you're running Cecil with somebody, you can basically give your entire team a 3-hit physical barrier, which is pretty cool, little niche. But one thing I wanted to shout out for Machen, we actually didn't do this. I'm gonna click back. I think it's round 2. As this goes down there, Tyrell in the second round. I never shouted this pick out, but I actually think Tyrell is sleeper this season. I think he's going to be really solid. He's only 30 cost. We've never seen Tyrell a single time in WDL in the first 3 seasons. He's never even been picked. And I think that's why he's 30. And I think he's actually pretty darn good. He can basically have 100% slash pen. He can have 100 debuff resist with his first buff. His problem is he doesn't really have good skills like past that.
He could also have about 40 agility.
I don't know, man. I put a team together, an ice water team testing before drafts, and my Tyrell was about 100 agility. So it wasn't like he was like super slow. And he can Keenblade, which is the only 30 cost that can Keenblade. So I don't know. I still like the pick. I don't know if he'll put in work with him, but I liked that pick, and I just wanted to go back and shout that one out.
I hope to see it.
All right, let's go.
I have a feeling I'll see him in my first match against Machen.
Could be. All right, so we're in round 6 here, and we can start kind of speeding through these if you want.
Coppola doing Coppola things, getting Starlight.
Yep.
Oh, and this is the pick everyone moaned, letting JB get Yuffie in the 6th round.
Big mistake.
Big mistake. I like the glassy pick. She just got her LB upgraded, which is, she went from just her LB just being useful for PvE to now actually being useful for PvP. A great upgrade.
Oberon as well getting a pretty decent upgrade to his limit break too.
Oh yeah, gives himself haste. Yeah.
I think it's
Glaciela's LB upgrade today is phenomenal. I think that she got one of the better ones we've seen. Removes re-raise and courage.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just kind of speeding through here, round 7. There is the 140able Snow. Unfortunately, JB didn't have that last season, but he is finally has his upgrades.
Yep.
The Alphonse Elric, I just wanted to call out because this was a unit that was like super hotly contested last season. And I won't give it away for other draft. I will give it away. This is the only Alphonse that got drafted in all 4 divisions.
Wow.
Which is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah. That is pretty surprising after last season.
Yeah.
He's still a beast.
He is. I told Turambar that, and he was like, that makes me concerned that it was the wrong pick. And I was like, I don't think so. I think everybody else just probably should have drafted him. But yeah.
And we were talking earlier before the camera started rolling. I love the Agrius pick at 50. Obviously, we know she'll never get a 140, but even at 120, she'll be a good tank.
The only tactics unit I think drafted, right? At least in this league.
That's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, no Orlando, no Ramza. This, Coppola has usually been the one in the past to get Ramza, and that didn't happen this time.
Yep. I'll shout out your Alaya Rundall pick as well. Down to 90 costs, I think she can be, on certain maps, pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, both her and Jaden Celebrated were level 89 when I drafted them, so I'm putting in some work.
Nice.
Got to get that ice mastery up.
Yeah, don't know them too well. I just know that I've lost to a lot of Elias a long time ago, but I think I can make work with her at 90.
Just as long as she's not level 89, I think you'll be just fine. Heading into the next round, not to pour another one for you here. I love the Summer Elsie pick. I think she's really good. Now down to 70 cost. That limit break can be extremely crippling. 40 AP gone from the enemy team is kind of nuts.
And a short hit and a heal back.
It's so good. Her limit break is just crazy. So she's quite bulky versus physical teams. She's got like multiple different ways to kind of resist that kind of damage. So yeah, I like her a lot at 70 cost. It was a unit I missed out on, was pretty upset about, missed by one pick. So
I was very, very excited to get her in the 8th round. Throwback to my season 2, I used her a lot in combination with Halloween Lucia. And I just, yeah, I literally use her in guild battle today.
Yeah,
still love her.
MachenX getting a pretty big present with Fravia and her limit burst upgrade.
Yep.
Got the magic reduction aura. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, for anyone watching, so the drafts, aside from a small portion of the Heinler division draft, but this draft was done before any of our global upgrades came out. So if you see that people weren't drafting Ibarra or Esther or anything like that, that's because we didn't know they didn't know the 140s were coming at the time of the draft. So MachenX wanted Fravia anyway and just kind of happened to get a little lucky and got that limit break upgrade. So Raph in round 8. I feel like that is a very, very good pick. Potential steal as well. I think she's very, very strong. Heading into round 9, so just a couple full rounds. Actually, this is, I think, the last full round where every person took a unit. We are going to have one team who is essentially out of picks, and I should probably explain this a little bit, as I don't know if I've said this before, but this season we changed kind of the structure on how we formed our composition, formed our teams. In the past, every person was required to draft a set number of units per tier. And the tiers were essentially cost from, let's say, this season it would have been like 140 down or something, but typically it was like 110 to 90 was a tier 1, 80 to 70 was tier 2, and then everything below was tier 3. And you used to have to draft like 3 of each tier. This season, we changed that so that people would have a bit more flexibility in terms of how they wanted to construct their rosters from a cost perspective. And we essentially gave everybody 750 points. So to draft a 70 cost unit, it costs you 70 points. It's as simple as that. So if you start with 750 and you drafted this Farouche, now you have 680 points left. The maximum number of units you can have on a team is 12, but there's no minimum. So most teams are going to end up with 10 or 11 units. Obviously, if you stack your team more heavily on some of those higher cost units, you're not going to have as many points to play with and you'll have less units overall. So just kind of as a summary, because I don't think I said that already, but JesusLBL is taking his last unit in this round, which is why I kind of wanted to shout that out. So
before we jump to the next round, my favorite pick of this round, to keep with my theme, is again JB. When I was initially looking at the cost sheet that you circulated, my eyes, went to Kilfei, and I marked her as someone that could have really good value at 60 cost. And she didn't quite make sense as far as how I was building out, but I'm glad to see somebody picked her up, and I'm very curious to see how JB is going to use her.
Yeah, I was surprised she was still hanging around, but I have a couple of teams in mind for her. It doesn't exactly fit what I'm trying to do, but I think that she was too good of a unit to leave there. So
You're promising now on the stream to use her at least once, right?
oh yeah, everybody's gonna get used.
There you go.
nice. That's what I like to hear. All right, so round 10. So we only had 11 picks in this round. So no pick from Jesus. But
see a lot of the low cost stuff coming out here.
Yep. People running out of points, trying to just use that last little bit up that they have left. The only real high cost unit in this round is Jaden Rundall. I know Sandrooster basically told me, it was like, there were a bunch of other choices that would have been better for his team, but for the memes, wanted to bring Jaden back again for the third straight season, I think. So
yeah, I was gonna say this is his 3rd season with Jay.
Yep. Yeah. The old unicorn gunfight from last season was all about Jaden in the videos, so I think he had to bring it back. So, and then last round, real quick before we get into the team sheets, and then we can look at how the actual rosters look all stacked together. But this was the very final round. So it looks like 5 teams ended up with 11 units. 6 teams ended up with 10 units, and 1 team ended up with 9 units. So these are all the other low-cost units that ended up going here. So anything that you guys wanted to mention before we look at the teams?
Let's get into it.
Cool.
Yeah, let's
see how they look all together.
But these are going to be the team sheets. And essentially what I did was I just took a little screenshot from the graph to add on here for our sake, because this graphic here is basically the draft order of how they selected these units. So in case anybody wanted to see that as we look at the rosters, you can see, okay, this is the order that Maverick took these units, because I don't have that listed over here. So yeah, otherwise you can see the element, you can see the job, you can see the cost of the unit, all that good stuff, and it'll be interesting. So the first one we have here is Maverick. He was the first overall pick, one of our many Get Swifty members. The Champions League is 66%, I think, either Get Swifty or Howl. It's pretty much dominated by 2 guilds. It might even be dominated by 3 guilds. I think we might have 2 from Lucis too, actually, I think. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Either one of you guys want to break down Maverick's roster?
Yeah, so I mean, we touched on how we started off the draft right off the bat with Lucio and Grifford. Awesome combo, and like you said, you can pair that up and top it off with Cyril.
Yep.
I do like Raph as a pick. I'm not sure how exactly he's planning on using her, because if you look at like some of the combinations, I don't know. I guess maybe you mix Mace with Varouche and like a 50 cost, or I don't know. I guess you could mix it with Lucio, but I don't know. The cards don't exactly line up for me. Unless you kind of look at the Black Mage Mace combination.
I was going to say one card I'll shout out is the VV card, because it's 50% magic. I think 24 AoE res is a super good card. It should have Katana, Mace, and Black Mage all on it, I believe. So I could see those 3 playing well together. But yeah, past that, I'm curious to see, how he'll use Raph, aside from maybe that 3-man combination.
He does have Celis in there that he can use to tank for Lucio as well. So some good kind of cold triangle going on there with those 3 units.
Yeah. Went with 3 tanks. And Grifford, who's like an off tank. So he's got a few bulky members in here.
And no dedicated no dedicated healer, but yeah, 3 tank. I guess Salir can be sub white mage.
Yeah. I actually don't know.
I'll be surprised at about Ishtola. I feel like she's like near unusable.
Yeah, she's still 120.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's got like no HP.
I actually don't know her AI, but I mean, assuming she is a like DPS AI, correct? Or does she have healer AI? Yeah.
She does have white mage, if I remember correctly, but
yeah,
not a support AI.
I think overall, I think he has one comp that is very, very strong. We already called it out. I think the full axe comp is not just because I think axes are cool. I think that comp is actually genuinely like really strong. And I think it's smart that he grabbed Celis for the simple fact that Lucio, Halloween, and Grifford are both, not that you can't take them into magic units, but they're, designed a little more towards the physical teams. To have Celis back one of them up, I think it was a smart call by him, and I think it's a pretty solid team. It'll be interesting to see how he uses it. So, and obviously he's got a good evasion angle, like you said, with Lucio and Chunak. So cool. Let's head to the next one. So this is going to be MacRain, 2nd overall pick, Scarlet Moon Empire of the Guild Hydra. And MacRain has been basically top of the ladder both seasons that he's played WDL. But this is going to be an especially hard challenge this season. So what do you guys think of MacRain's team?
You just gotta let MacRain cook. You look at it, it doesn't make sense. But he's going to make it work. Always. And the one thing that jumped out at me was his highest cost unit is 90 to Amnelis. you can his 40 cost is on actually like isn't necessary. There's no scenario where he can never run Zazan at a 220. It'll all be a 210. But he'll make it work somehow, and I think he's got some fun combinations. He can run Amnelis and kill Faye with Alday as a tank, and He's got some fun 80-77 UR teams. I have no idea. That's the thing with MacRain is you have no idea what he's going to bring at any given match, and it's going to be tight, and it's going to work somehow.
It seems to me he was building purely around like the devout spear synergy here. So he's got Eld as his main tank, and you can go Oberon Luartha, or you can go like, Oberon Shawls with that. Could go Luartha Shawls. You could go Luartha Amnelis with that behind Eld. Or, potentially he can go with the water ice connection. He can go Snow and Amnelis, like they also are on that FMA card. So he's got some pretty nice options there, kind of building around that synergy of those three jobs. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I was going to shout out the same thing. Obviously, he's got 11 units. The 9 on the top here are all on that, Edward Elric card with the unit attack resist and the agility. So he's putting that in there somewhere. It is interesting, like you said, with Shadow Lynx and Zazan. I'm almost curious if he would have thought about just taking another 90 instead of like Shadow Lynx and Zazan, but he might have just looked and said like there wasn't a 90 that he felt like was more worthwhile. But I do think the strategy is really cool and interesting to stack up a bunch of units that he thinks are solid units, not the top tier, and kind of mix them together. But SurfTaco said it best. Let MacRain cook, man. Last season we voted his roster as what we thought was the weakest roster in our division. It wasn't saying he was the worst, but we thought his roster was the worst, and he was tied for first in points in our division. So yeah, just let MacRain do his thing. He's a stud. So
like objectively, he might have had the worst roster on paper, but that's just how good of a player he is.
Yep. For sure.
He doesn't have Yerma this year though, so we'll have to see if is that the secret sauce? I don't know.
Could be. All right, so the next one is the Fire Ferret. So this is Turambar. He did request from me to have the Los Angeles Rams colors. He said that he wanted to honor me with that. So shout out to Turambar. I appreciate it. Los Angeles Rams are my favorite football team. So Turambar, nice. Leader of Get Swifty. He's had second place, and fourth place over 3 seasons. He's always right there at the end. He's a stud. I know he personally felt halfway through the draft that he basically messaged me, was like, I don't know how to salvage my draft. And I said, uh-oh. And by the end of it, I think he was feeling at least a good chunk better about it from where he was at. But I'm curious to see.
I think that's a common theme for him. Well, maybe not last season, but I think he...
Yeah, last season, not so much. I think he felt pretty damn good about his roster last season. So,
I mean, when you start the draft with Alphonse and Edward, like at the height of the fist meta, like you gotta feel pretty good about it.
Yep.
I don't know. I think he's got some options here. Like you look at Ravies and Glaciella together, still got room to throw a support in there with Aerith behind them. He's got the light team, Stern, Sakura plus support, I guess. He's got the lightning connection with Ranan and Alphonse. And then I guess you throw in Lorila there. So the only one that kind of sticks out to me is one that's really not fitting too well is the Renelle pick. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to slot her in and where exactly she fits. I guess maybe she can fit in with maybe an evade team if you're going to go with Stern. Maybe make them a little bit evasive, but
yeah, he can pair her with Stern and Sakura, and they can use I forget Dark Bahamut, little dark light synergy there.
I think that's probably the most likely scenario for her, just for the simple fact that I know she can kind of start a chain for Stern. She has like her AoE like Trinity attack or whatever that I think is like a chance to blind and could potentially amp up his damage. But yeah, aside from being played with Stern, I'm not sure. But the one pick I'll call out here, as you can see his draft over here, halfway through the draft, he takes Glaciella. I do think that's the unit that kind of ties his team together. just from the standpoint of like having Valade as his first overall option here, having with Glaciella, with either Renan or Alphonse. We were just talking about MacRain's team having that card, the Edward Eller card, synergy and stuff like that. Well, the same thing, right? Renan, Alphonse, Glaciella, and Valade are all on that card. So there is definitely some synergy there with either of these two units. You can throw in one of these down here. Otherwise, obviously, Glaciella, Valade with one of them I could see being respectful. So, and obviously the Glaciella mixing with the Ice Water team too. So I think that's why Glaciella is kind of the glue here, in my opinion.
Yeah, we know Turambar is a great manager, so I'm sure he's going to be right in the thick of things here.
I don't know. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm gonna say it. It's not revealing anything he's gonna do. But he told me he took Sternwing of Destiny because he thought he was Sword Warrior, and he realized after the fact that it was Sword Knight, and he was like, "That's when he said, I don't know if I can salvage this." But honestly, I think he did a pretty damn good job of it. I don't think Stern is the highlight of his team, but I mean, he's a very good unit who could put in some work if you're not prepping for him. So.
Oh, yeah.
Good combo with Sakura too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, next one, ReadyPlayerWill, who apparently is part of Howl now, which I did not realize, but he messaged me about that, so that's exciting. Team Fight Club, which I love. Obviously, pretty obvious. He's got a bunch of people that want to beat each other up. 4 fist units on his team. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I mean, fist was like the big thing last season. Like everybody was fighting over the fist units. Turambar and myself, I think most notably, kind of grabbed a lot of them, at least in the Heimler division. But not as many were drafted this year. But Will was kind of grabbing a lot of them here. He's got Edward, Perrine, Urel, and then he ends the draft with Raldor, which I'm not sure if I would have gone that direction with Raldor, but I'm interested to see what he does with him. Obviously, there's a lot of ice units in the league, so maybe he can use him as a counterplay there.
Yeah, I'm just glad he can't run Ed and Perrine on the same team, but he can definitely run either one of them with Urel and Surgis, and he'll have a hard time against Soul, especially if Soul just gets some silence resist or nullifies silence. But against every other team, I think he'll be in a good spot. He'll find a way.
So I know in my team last year, I had Perrine, I had Urel, and I had Surgis. It's a good team together, actually.
Yeah, that team beat me in the playoffs. We don't need to talk about it. It took me out of the playoffs. Yeah. Anyway, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, Urel passing Fatal Oath onto Perrine and then just Vortex Kick and forget about Courage. It's good. Yeah,
I think if he didn't get Urel in, I mean, he might not have went as heavily into this if he didn't get Urel in round 4, I guess. But I did find it interesting that he went with 2 100 cost fist units in the first 2 rounds, obviously just because they can't play with each other. But Edward and Perrine, do different things. Even though they are both fist units, they do play a little different. So I know Will is obviously a tremendous player. I am worried about if he plays somebody who just has a stupid amount of strike resistance. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's not his only damage type, but he's very heavy into it. So, but I'll again shout out the Rosa pick. I still think that pick is fantastic. So, and probably another reason
Perrine
why
at
he
least
needed
does
a
have
70 like Raldor.
Perrine at least does have the penetration now. She got a nice MA2, so with the weapon passive, I think she gets to, I want to say 40%. So it's a little bit harder to stop her now than it was last season.
For sure. All right, so this next one, Unicorn Gunfight 2 Electric Boogaloo. And one thing I will say is Sandrooster tries every season to make his team a more complicated name so that I can screw it up while I'm shoutcasting. So props to him. We'll see if I screw it up during the matches. So, but there's the Jaden pick, like I said, at the very end. I think he pretty much took him for the memes. That being said, on the right map, in the right situation, Jaden has been around for a long time, but is still very, very good. So can't sleep on him. The Vivi, I think, is a very, very good unit who I think can pair well with Mediana, but I'm curious to see how he uses the Vivi, because Vivi has to play with two of those bottom three units to actually be used in this comp. So I don't know if he's going to try and heal with Slime, or if he's just going to go full out damage with McLeod, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Is I like Vivi, but I'm not sure he has the support here to really be able to take full advantage of him. Like you would like to have maybe some kind of a tank for him, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, he does have some other looks here. He's got the Glaciella pick, which I think is one of the best picks on the board for what she brings. For her damage mitigations, she can actually do good damage if you build her for it. But
Something
yeah,
that jumped out at me was he's got 4 70 cost units. I would have liked to have seen an 80 so he could have a 70-70-80 team. And maybe it would have been nice for him to have a 30 cost somewhere so he could pair a 70 with Vivi. Because at the moment he's just kind of limited now, Vivi plus 250s between the three that he has. And he's obviously got Glaciella Summer and Eldira, only 2 water units, but he's got no earth to back that up. If he's going to rely on Summer Glassy kind of as his main tank, but he's got so many options, he doesn't really necessarily need that earth, but he always loves to talk about, the triangles, and his cold triangles is definitely missing an edge.
I am
kind
curious
of a
to,
similar thing with Jaden as well. Not a ton of options to kind of run interference for him. So I guess you got to go 70-50 for him as well.
Yeah.
with his jobs, he's got some interesting like synergies and stuff, but they don't necessarily mix with the cost. I think, I don't know if, I think he took Slime just because it's like, hey, Slime could just, he can go with anybody. But like, for example, Jaden being a gunner unit, guns can work with Mace just based off of like the Melnia VC, getting that agility and unit resist. Those are two of the massive things that you want to try and have in your party. But when you have those two together, I'm looking at them like, well, who's the third unit you're pairing with to go on that vision card and stuff like that? So he's got a couple of like 2 units together working very well, but I'm curious to see how many like 3 unit teams that mesh well he can put together. The one team I know is coming out at some point is the full Mace squad. He's always just had a thing for Summer Katone and Moshri. He's liked those units for a long time. So shout out to him in that perspective, because those are 2 units that I know he's just enjoyed using for a long time. And
I think
Mace
that'll be fun, the 70-70-70 Mace squad for sure.
and Mace VCs are actually like stupid good. So I don't know if that team will be good, but their vision cards are very strong. So we'll see how it goes.
I was looking at Summer Katone in the round that he drafted him, so I was going to take him if he didn't.
Nice. Ultimately, Sandrooster's a great player. I'm sure he's going to figure this out. But yeah, we'll see. Next team is Straw Hats. Out of the 48 players across 4 divisions, this is the only team with less than 10 units. So Jesus very much went with a high cost strategy. Obviously, getting the Helena the Black Rose, he made damn sure to go Uni and Mish with the next 2 picks. Wanted to try and get 2 units that could work well with her. Obviously, Mish going to fit on some Black Mage vision cards with her. And Uni, I think, is just a useful unit to have, just being able to disable any sort of like CT, haze quick, and all that kind of good stuff. So, and obviously,
Uni really pairs well with the Barts.
exactly. So they're a match made in heaven. And then he's got Silma as well that he could theoretically run with Barts too if he doesn't want to run Mish. So I'm curious to see if most of his matches are Helena or Barts, or if he will, get some more run out of the other kind of middle cost units he's got going there.
Yes, I mean the Helena team can only be one thing. It can only be Helena, Uni, Mish. with Bart's, he can potentially bring in Silma,
And then
maybe
pick
for
between Uni and Mish, but we all know he's going to pick Uni.
oh yeah.
One,
But then
go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to shout out real quick. I don't think we saw this in any division, but one combo I wondered if we would see it all was instead of Silma, something like Solir coming out as a 50 cost unit. I don't know if it would be hard to pull off on auto, but she has a double target single or unit resist drop skill. So I'm thinking in my head, like she could easily target two people, drop their unit tech resist, and have Bart's follow up just come in and nuke somebody. But I don't think we saw that on any team combination. But that was just something I was just gonna throw out there. So
she'd have to survive to get close enough.
exactly, it's pretty good range, but yeah, she's kind of glass cannon.
So I got Yuffie in the 6th round, and then he immediately drafted Sorrow, which I'm almost wondering if he drafted it just so I couldn't, because I'm not exactly sure like what his plans are for that unit, because he doesn't really have any other evasive units here. He's got a couple that can maybe do a little bit, but not on the cards that that Sorrow takes advantage of for that. Bart's would be one, but they can't fit cost wise.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So it looks like he's maybe trying to mix Sorrow with Zidane and Mish, or Roy and Mish.
For your guys' sake, I'm
Or
really.
I guess we can't go mono there, but
I was gonna say, for your guys' sake, I'm really glad that he can't run Bart's and Lightning together and have double follow up.
oh my god. I don't think it's going to be as strong as it was in WBEL, because he doesn't have Warrior of Light here to run interference for the Bards.
Yeah, he's missing
It
his
made
wall.
a pretty big difference getting the Keen Blade from him, and then just having like 20,000 HP to get through before you get to the other units.
Yeah, but it was always shocking though when you did get through the wall, and then the next hit came against Bart's. Like, all right, finally gonna get some damage against Bart's, and it just tickled him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
surprisingly tanky.
I mean, he's a great unit, but that's kind of how this season is, right? A lot of these units that are 120 or higher, especially the 130 and 140, the concept is it's designed for it to be difficult to make them work. We didn't want these units who are extremely oppressive to be, it's just like an easy decision, just run them and just run the other team over, right? That's why Helena the Black Rose, who is dominant, is 140. She's an absolutely amazing unit, but yeah, you got to run her with an SR and an R rarity unit for her to run here. So that's kind of the concept. So he's going to put a lot of his eggs in these 2 units baskets. I mean, they're two good units to do that with, but I'll be curious to see if how well it works.
I'll be
Light
honest,
resistance.
I'm pretty scared of both of them, to be honest. I mean, Helena can 3v1 very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And Bart's, you can't stop him with light resistance, unfortunately.
Yeah, true. Follow up.
And obviously the uni combination is like we said, a match made in heaven for 2 reasons. One, obviously the long range follow up, but also kind of nerfs the enemy's ability to bum rush you sometimes, like not being able to maybe Keen Blade or do certain things like that. So the next one is JB's team. JB, I didn't get a request from you for a color, so if you would like a different color out here, let me know. I just went with 9S's color on this picture because we had a lot of reds. But anyway, take it away, man.
I like it. I like the yellow.
Go over your comp. Let's hear it.
So my number 1 draft pick was Eld Leonis. He just came out recently. I've been building him. I've been using him. I really enjoyed playing him. So once Glaciella was gone, he was my number 2. I had to grab him. So I kind of picked some units to kind of build around him. Obviously, I got 9 next. That's going to be like that 50 cost I can put next to him. And I kind of got a tank option there with Agrius that I can throw in as well. I did grab Raph Winter as well. That's another unit I've been using recently. I really like her kit. Even at 100 cost, I think that she still brings nice value, like really good buffs for the team with the supplicant sub job. and really, really tanky. Like even against Earth units, they don't take her down easily by any means. So that was kind of, a lot of the units that I grabbed here are kind of bulkier, hard to take down units. But then I did mix in a little bit of the evade play there just to kind of keep people honest. And then Big Man Soul, he's I've had him kind of put away here like since Helena came into the meta, but I'm excited to use him in this format. And obviously, it's very costly to use him, so I had to go with some lower cost units there, like with Mia. But I feel like out of the 30 cost units, she was actually one that I liked the most. So uh, I think they can. I'm kind of theory crafting ways that I can use them together.
She did get a cool little upgrade. I don't know if it was her 140 or whatever it was, but she does have one really good attack. I don't know remember if it's her job 25, but I think it's like a unit attack resist drop or something. She's got one actually pretty solid skill, which she didn't really used to have. I want to call out real quick. I got to fix this graphic. Raph Winter is not a Pierce unit, even though or a spear unit, even though a lot of her attacks, not a lot, some of her attacks are Pierce attacks, but I'll fix that for later. But I like the comp a lot. I know you were kind of trying to build around 9S, obviously took him on in the second round, but you've got some really nice synergies with him there. Obviously with the Soul, we've gone over the Edward card so many times. Same thing with Elda there. I think you've got some really just good value picks. I think Dario is still a stud. I mean, even at 60 costs, he's just a freak of a tank. Summer Killfay. If I had her, I probably would have picked her myself. I love the Axe units. And Agris, even though she's 120, so many statuses. I mean, you've got a lot of statuses to worry about here between her and Curry. And you better bring accuracy, because if you brings Yuffie and you don't bring it, good luck.
That's kind of what I was going for with my draft was value, because I obviously I have a couple of units that are a bit more expensive. But none of like my synergies I would say are perfect. But I feel like with the units, the value is there that I'm still going to be able to get it, enough synergy that they'll be able to bring enough to the table. So we'll see how it actually works in practice.
Yeah, my only comment is when I was observing this draft and round 4 came and you got Saul. You just look at that top row of Saul, Young Elday, and Raph. I'm like, oh, JB's starting to throw his weight around. He's done taking second place.
Especially when I saw you take Alaya and Jade in the Celebrated. I'm like, okay, time to grab Soul and just completely demolish your first 4 rounds of the draft.
Pretty much.
I mean, Soul is just one of those units. If you don't put him away, man, he hangs around, he heals himself up, and then he nukes your team. He's so frustrating to play against if you can't get rid of him. And I think one of the biggest things I like about your team is not even 2 units that can play together, but the fact that you have Soul and then you have Winter Raph, who kind of complement each other in terms of like being able to block certain damage types. Like Winter Raph just completely shuts down magic. It's kind of crazy how good against that she is. So yeah, I think you did a really awesome job.
Hopefully we can take it down this year. We'll see what happens. Got some good players to go against.
Speaking of good players, we've got
Ram. Oh no, nothing to see here. Next.
We've got Ram 9 and the Rock Boys up next. I will say wanted Oron as his mascot unit, which didn't surprise me. I am friends with him in Wotiv, and I think Oron has been his main, whatever you want to call it, home screen unit for the past like couple months. And I was like, is he just doing this waiting for next season of WDL, or he just always like him on the home screen? But yeah, this is a very Ram 9 draft. I don't know how else to really say that. He loves his cold triangle. He did that all across the board except for one pick, which was Kane, and apparently that was a pick stealing from both of you guys. So apparently well done by him.
Yeah, I look at this roster and there's just so many personal favorites of mine: Ferris, Reagan, Dea, Titus, Kane, Murmur, Ramada. It's just, yeah, sadly, I'll admit it, this roster speaks to my heart, and I'm looking forward to see what he does with it. And I love Gilgamesh at 70. He jumped out at me as somebody that you could have fun with at a 70 cost, and snagging Oron at 50 at the end. He's gonna have, obviously, with the Earth, with the whole cold triangle, water, ice synergies. He's going to have no problem putting together a wide variety of teams.
He does have the evade angle there with Frederica.
Right,
To be honest,
yeah.
she doesn't really scare me, even if I'm lightning, but that's all I'll say about her. Dea, she went up to 70 cost this year. Still think she's a good unit even at that cost. Ryu, I think he's a good value at 72. His limit burst upgrade is really, really good for like 1 rounds PvP. And we already talked about Titus, with the Hastiga and really, really solid support.
One thing that jumped out at me, I think it was similar to someone else's composition. It might have been Roosters, that he's got the 470s. And I just feel like it would have been nice to have one of those being 80, so you can just have a perfect 70, 70, 80 UR team. But I think it's just a minor complaint.
One thing I will say about Ram 9 is he doesn't give a shit about getting up to 220. Like, he will run a comp at 180 costs if he feels like it's like something that he can work. So while I do agree with your point, it doesn't surprise me at all that he's doing it this way. I think he just says, hey, like, this is a unit that I want to play and this is something that I can make work. So if it's below 220, then let's do it.
I like the team.
He'd better find a way to use Kane after stealing it from both of us.
That is the only thing I'll say is I'm curious to see how he uses him. I don't think there's like a ton of super apparent synergies for him, but he'll find ways to use him and stuff. So,
well, the spear group is on King L's card, which has area resist and HP. So he can do like Reagan, Kane, Ramada, or Ferris, Kane, Ramada.
Very true. I didn't even think about that. Very nice. You can tell I don't have that card. The next one, House Tyrell. So nice Game of Thrones reference. MachenX, I don't know if you actually want me to spell it with 1 R or not. Dude, it took me so long to realize that Tyrell is actually spelled with 2 R's in game. I looked at this and I was like, this is a typo. Like, no, it's not. That's actually how it's spelled. I know I shouted this out mid-draft, and looking at his team, I still agree with it. I think Tyrell is a steal at 30. I know that JB said that he thought Mia was one of the better 30s. I ranked the 30s for myself before the draft. And I actually did have Mia number 2. I had Tyrell number 1 as my like 30 cost units, just for 2 reasons. 1, he has Keenblade, and 2, I think just in terms of stats and his penetrations, he's kind of nutty for the value. Being able to pair with Howlet and Astrius in those like ice water comps, I could see those working, or Miranda if you don't want to run Astrius or something like that. He's another team that's running a lot of cold triangle stuff. Cecil, we'll see. I don't know. Will we see him? I don't know, but it'll be cool.
I will say that I wouldn't have said this if I picked up Astrius, but I object to Astrius being knocked down to 90. He is still a 100 cost unit. I used him very effectively last season. I don't know why he got knocked down to 90. No, I'm looking forward to MachenX put some good work with Astrius and Miranda, 2 of my all-time favorites. And yeah, I'm going up against him week 1. Looking at his composition, it'll be interesting if I can try and make Elia work against Luell, Melny, and Dagger, but we'll try it.
The Fraevia is going to be clutch this year. I think that LB upgrade is really, really nice for her.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's very good.
Especially at 70. I hope to see some Barrett too. I
think we will. There's some different synergies in here that I honestly think he did a phenomenal job here. I love when teams have both the elemental synergies and the job synergies like at the same time. And one of those teams that isn't 220 cost, but you can run again Barrett Melnia with Tyrell. It's only 200. But all 3 are on that Melnia card. And I really think Tyrell is going to perform well this season. I'm putting my chips on Tyrell, which seems weird as a unit who's never been picked before, but I think he's going to.
Hold on, Make a prediction right now. Who's going to win between Machen and me? First match of the season.
Oh, it's Machen easy. Come on.
Starting off 0-1. It's been a while since you lost, so.
Yeah.
I guess I'm due. Well, I will note that this will be the third time that I go up against Machen for the very first match of the season. It happened season 1. I took that one, and
That's
then it happened
right.
again season 2, and he clapped back, and so this will be our best of 3 to open a season. I'm very much looking forward to it. And it was season 2 that he beat me with an Elia reflex, and I'm still pretty sore about
I
that.
remember that. That is actually insane that has happened 3 times. I don't
Yeah.
I don't sit and like, ooh, who would be a fun matchup? Like, I literally just throw them in a randomizer and see what happens. So the fact that that's happened 3 times is kind of wild.
Yeah, we're both pumped for it.
Yeah. Very cool. Next one is Coppola's team, Sword and Sorcery Mercenaries. Going to be another tongue twister for me to say, I think, during battle, but cool theme here. And shout out to, he said the guild was the highest paying. That is not actually his guild, but for the memes and the theme of the team. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Pretty top heavy here. Got 4 100 cost plus units. Gargus, I think, was a steal for him to get. That was another unit that I was really looking to get to pair with my Winter Wrath. So he scooped that one up. That combination of Skahal and Gargus, I think, is really, really potent and scary to face off against.
Absolutely.
And you can either back it up with Balo or Katia. It's going to be very powerful.
Yep.
And you know Gargus is going to be fully reincarnated. And how did he become 70? He's an 80 coster at least. What's going on here, KSaun?
I will say,
How did he go down in cost?
it's interesting, yeah, because Gargus actually did quite well last season as 80. The season before that he was 70, and last season he was at 80. I will say I was not the only one who had something to do with the costs, but yeah, he probably could have been 80. He's probably a steal at 70, but it'll be interesting. So yeah, he's got some good synergies here for sure. He's got some Sword Knight synergies. He's got 2 Sword Knight tanks. But I think that's just depending on like what comp he wants to run. So if he wants to run King Bradley, he could very easily run a Knight comp with Balo and Lilith along with him. If he feels like running Squall and he wants to upgrade from Balo, he could go Engelbert, or maybe he just says, hey, maybe he wants 2 tanks with Squall. I don't know. But yeah, that Skahal Gargus is just so much DPS, so much offense. And it probably only lasts like 1 hit because Gargus is going to hit 2 people. But Gargus starts the fight with some hate down, which means the enemy team's probably going to try and target Skahal. Depending on how the timing works, you very easily could hit Skahal instead of Gargus. Katia just heals Skahal back up to full, and you just bought like another turn for these 2 units to just explode the enemy team. So yeah, I like his comp a lot. And obviously, anytime Cop gets Starlight Elena, he's just a person that makes her play higher than pretty much anyone I've ever seen. I don't know how, but he's just one of the best Starlight Elena players there. So.
And I was wrong when I said that Agrius was the only tactics unit taken. We got Mustadio here, I guess, for
there you go,
the trophy pick.
Yeah, I don't know if we will see him or not. He was his final pick. I don't know if he only had 40 points left. I'm not doing the math quick, but maybe we'll see him. We'll see. Who's this guy? Head over Elias Heels. SurfTaco, 2-time champ. Tell us about it, man.
Well, I had so many plans, and they all just fell through immediately in the first round. Jaden was on my list to be 2nd or 3rd pick, but with all my other first picks selected, I've never actually used him. He was level 89 when I picked him, but I've always loved Jaden. When he originally was announced, I wanted to get him, but then Elia was announced right thereafter, and so I skipped him and kind of lucked into him later. I'm just really excited to kind of learn about him, play him. I just felt that, he's obviously been underwhelming for the community, to say the least, but at 90 cost, I'm hoping to get some value out of him. And I love my ice and water. And so I'm just looking forward to experimenting with Jay, and then obviously seeing everyone get water. Figured I'd grab Elia, see what I could do there. Grab both Elias. Um, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm as confident with this team as I was last season, but I think I'll find some. They'll have some surprises in there. Excited to have Aranea back on my squad from second season, and either I'm going to be bringing something. Either I'm going to be bringing Elia, her team with Lizette and Sosha, or I'm going to be bringing, a cold triangle team against you. And so, good luck, KSaun.
I will say, I think that you dropped the ball a little bit with your gunners, not getting them a tank. I think you should have grabbed Balo or Nasha, like with the Knight's gun synergy with Melnia's card. And that would have been like a really solid other angle that you could have there. But um, there you do have some good squads here, I think, with the Pierce angle, got the fist angle. So
I would note that I 100% agree with what you're saying. I don't, sadly, I don't even have the Melanie card. Uh, I don't, this is the first time I've ever drafted without a single tank or a single healer. I'm just all DPS, so that'll be fun.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
bringing all the damage.
I was gonna say
And then you
go for it, JB.
I was just gonna say that the farm kind of stands out to me a little bit too. Like you do have a lot of water and ice, but um
Yeah, that was
not
supposed to be Titus or Titus.
I actually don't mind the farm just for the simple fact that it allows you to synergize Jaden with one of those other 70s a lot better. If anything, I actually thought if there's anything awkward about the team, because I actually like your team a lot, it was that you had 3 water units from 70 to 60 range. So for me, it would be almost like changing either Summer Elsie or Raychez, one of those. But I mean, you're much better. You've done way better than I have over 3 seasons. Who the hell am I to second guess you? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
I,
Raychez wasn't I was probably should have picked Luell. That was my instinct, but I really just love Raychez, and I wanted her on my team. And before I forget, I do want to shout out my sparring partner and better half, Some Smarty, who whispered great advice into my ears throughout this draft and obviously helped me spar all last 3 seasons. And he was telling me the whole time, pick Sylvie, pick Winter Shadowlinks, Shadowlinks on ice, because almost, he was actually making a good case by Sylvie's still good at 120 and Shadowlink's Ice kind of to troll, but also to go with the spear. And I did not listen to my chagrin.
Missed
I feel
opportunity.
like Lynx would have been an absolute steal at 70 with
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I don't think that she's a great unit now, but I think that she did actually get some nice upgrades, and for 70 cost, it would have
Oh
been
yeah.
really, really good.
Can I swap her for Aranea, please?
I wouldn't mind
Sorry
seeing
about
a waiver period.
that is something I've thought about. And the only thing is like I didn't put it in place before the drafts. So like finding a fair way to do that would be interesting because you kind of think about it, it's like, well, do you use the points that you have left over? Like I would think you almost like couldn't, or else people might not have tried to use all their points. They might have tried to save some for later. But it is a cool idea, and it is something I've thought about before, at least, for the future. Definitely something we could consider. So, especially with the point system, I think it could be probably a little easier to do that than how we had the tiers before. So, but yeah, as much as I said about the water thing, I do think your team is actually pretty darn good. So, yeah.
I think so too. I think that the LC pick there towards the end really kind of salvaged what I think up to that point was a little bit rough. Being honest.
All right. Well, I
Because
can't wait to disappoint you.
I like the spear book connection. I think that's going to be a good one for you.
And I will say, I know Jaden Celebrated gets a lot of flack. I have him 140 actually, and I've used him, and I actually really enjoy him. Obviously, the big thing is just like his AP issues, but if you can find yourself around that, I like him a lot. I think he's a little underrated. I think people bash on him a little more than they probably should. But
And I think
he'll be good at
given
90
this
cost.
format, you know, it's not too hard to make sure he's going to have enough AP going into the fight.
Yeah. The last team here in this division is numero 80, coach of the Blind Enthusiasts. Shout out to numero 80 who put on the WBEL this last season, was voted Blind Enthusiast League. It was a big undertaking for him. He also had Chisei helping him out, but just massive shout out to him. I wanted to break from the WDL for a while, so he took it upon himself to run like a different league for the community. There was like 20 people in the league. It wasn't a draft league, but a bunch of people played in it, and that was really, really cool. So just huge shout out to numero 80 for doing that for a bunch of people, and yeah, that was awesome. So, but now we can roast his roster. No, I'm just kidding. So the final team here, I think Flag Glassy is really, really
First
good.
of all, I do want to say I didn't know that he picked up Elia the Alabaster too.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Sorry about that. I need to switch that. Okay, so I was doing all these graphics like before tonight, tried to like rush through these. So yeah, that's oops. Yeah,
I do love the new design. You killed it as always.
Thank you, I appreciate it. This part won't be on the team sheets, I don't think. I mean, I could put them on there, I guess, but this was more just for us, so it's easier to see. But I appreciate it. Yeah. He's got an interesting team. I will say I always try and like talk up every team. This season I think was the first time I've actually had some negative things to say about some teams. I'm trying to just be, completely honest. I'm a little worried about him having enough damage on this comp.
Yep.
Is kind of how I feel. I think he's got some really good units, but I just worry about him putting out enough damage. I don't know. I said this during when we said this earlier. I don't know if Etra was just stealing that from you, SurfTaco, because it seemed like he put a big emphasis on her as a third pick, but I don't really know if he just like went away from that mid-draft, because I don't really see the Etra synergy.
I wasn't even looking at her. I was looking at other 40 costs, including a lot of water 40 costs, to kind of round it up. So, I'm glad I got Sosha because I can use Sosha in other compositions, and Etre would just kind of be useless in other compositions. And I like the Sosha Kankeen. And so if it was the steal for me, it was very pointless because I wasn't even going to pick her.
I feel like
so. I mean, he's very tank heavy here. He's got Dialdo, Joom, and Rain. So three different high cost tanks. I like Dialdo a lot, actually. I was thinking about drafting him. I think that he puts out actually a lot of damage for a tank.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, you really to get that kind of damage, it's most of the time going to be an earth composition, which he doesn't really have to back that up. You'd have to have him in kind of a spear / fist group with Etra. So I don't know if he has the right units to back it up. I do like Velnay. I think that that's a good one with Dialdo, but would have liked to have seen like another 60 cost spear unit to go in that team as well.
Yeah. I think I'm curious to see. I think he's going to run Rain as kind of like going to attempt to run him more of as a DPS. I'm curious to see, because like he's going to try and run a greatsword comp at some point with Joom, Rain, and Shutsalt. I mean, Rain's magic stack can be fine, like if you're actually trying to do that with him. But he's like an off damage. He's not, like your main damage. Obviously that shuts out, he's the main DPS. But I don't know. I'm not going to say it's a bad draft. I think he's going to be pretty heavy. And my opinion is if he's not running Flag Glassy, I'm a little worried. That's just kind of like how I feel, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the only unit that you look at on here that you're worried about.
Like, I think he could pair up a couple of different things with her that could work well. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know. He's a great player, though, so he could very easily make it work and prove me wrong, and I hope he does. So
I hope he doesn't.
Especially against you. I hope he proves me wrong. Cool.
No, I'm looking forward to what he does.
Cool. Well, guys, that is the last team of the Champions League. If you would like, I will allow you to roast my roster if you guys want to. Otherwise, this is basically it for the video. So that's up to you guys.
We gotta see it.
All right.
Yeah, throw it up. I
All right.
don't know what it is.
All right, I put it in here just in case you guys wanted to do this. So this is my team, the Los Angeles Rams. I'm in the Rundall division this year. I'm a huge Los Angeles Rams fan, if you can't tell. I unfortunately only have Rams at level 79, or else he'd be on the roster because of the team name. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want me to tell you what my thought process was, or if you just want to just go for it.
Let's just tear into it. No, I mean, I like Ravi S. We already talked about that unit earlier for Turambar's team, but Ravi S. and Grifford, like that's a good solid core. You still got 70 points left over, so you can go with Dia there beside them. Vega, I know that you've been a big Vega proponent for a while. Again, you can run him with Grifford. You got Durando to kind of round out that team, so that's pretty solid. You got some different angles here. You also grabbed 9S, so that can go with Vega. And you got Lemur that you can throw in there too to kind of get that support for your two bruisers. So I don't know. I'm seeing some good stuff here actually.
SurfTaco, anything you want to say?
I mean, I do love the Axe Squad. Vega, yeah, Vega's someone I've always hated as a water player, but yeah, he's he's a little underrated. He can really hit hard, and he's obviously got his berserks. I'm just trying to look at your, the synergies and the elements. You kind of went cold triangle a little bit too, with a little interspersing some lightning. That's pretty much my story this season. It's
also Oron became
Orin is not
unit.
wind. Yeah, I know. I was trying to do this one at the last second too. I'm gonna make him a wind unit. It's fine.
He should be a fire unit because of his LB.
He should be. They really dropped the ball on that one.
I think though that maybe we'll look back, but I think the potential secret of this season was to stay away from the 100+ units and really focus on 80s and 70s and the really value UR units. And I think that might prove to be the winning strategy, kind of almost like season 2 with Ram and his little Killfay comp.
Yeah.
And you definitely got a lot going there with the 70s and the 80s and the lower costs teams that are going to be basically all UR.
Yeah, so just to break down my thought process and what I did here, started off my draft with Grifford. I use him all the time, like I said, in guild battle every week. I think he's just so damn good. I just really like him as a unit. I think his aesthetic is dope. I loved him, wanted him for sure. I knew I wanted Vega. Full transparency, my Vega is max reincarnated. He is one of the only units that I've maxed, and I was like, I'm going to feel so dumb if I don't take this guy. Even though I think there was a decent chance that I could have drafted him way late, but I didn't think it was worth the risk of not getting him just because I felt like my Vega was higher value than somebody else's was going to be. Grabbed Celis because I knew I was going to have, Grifford. I felt like I could pair them up together and maybe grab somebody to go with them later. Celis kind of covers Grifford for magic threats, stuff like that. Ended up grabbing Urel late. I don't feel like I have the best synergies with her, but there is a couple of vision cards. There's one vision card coming out, or maybe I'm mixing up. It doesn't matter. Anyway, there's Dark Golem synergy with a couple of the ice units, and I really wanted to make sure that I had some sort of good courage removal like on the team. Ravi's Winter is there too, but Urel's courage removal is just gross. Like it's so easy to make happen, which I like. There's one thing about this draft I was just devastated about, and it's no shot at Dia, but man, did I want Summer Elsie. She went the pick before me. I ran it a lot in Arena with Ravi's Winter and Summer Elsie together, and goodbye enemy AP. And like those two together just played so well together. It was, Summer Elsie Limit Break would drop 40 AP from the enemy team. Ravi's Winter would drop 20 and put Frostbite on. And I was beating a lot of really strong teams just because they just didn't have any EP to do anything. So I was really disappointed to not get Summer Elsie, but overall, I'm still pretty happy with my team. couple of the late picks I probably could have done a little differently, but my heart told me that I had to have a greatsword team, even if it was 170 cost greatsword team. So grabbed Ornn at the end, who does allow me to play Grifford with Celis, which I like. So overall, I think if I have a downfall this season, it's going to be that I'm too slash heavy. But other than that, I'm actually pretty happy with how it panned out, and I got most of what I wanted. So.
Well, you can mix in Urel with Axe. Like the Elia Vision card with area resist can get you there.
Yep.
So that's not a bad connection.
Heck yeah. So cool, guys. What were we gonna say, Taco?
I was gonna say my favorite team that you'd run, other than the Axe, would be the Dea, Ravi, Celeste. I've always wanted Celeste for WDL, and I've just never gotten her.
Yeah, I felt like her dropping down to 80 made her a lot more feasible this season, especially because I think there's just a lot more good units around 70 than there used to be. I know you talked about, not going for those units above 100 costs, and that was kind of one thing where I tried to put my money where my mouth was, because I was like, I really felt like a lot of people were calling for bans before the season. Not a lot of people, but some people were calling for bans before the season started, and I really felt like making units a ridiculously high cost is the trade-off for
is
bans.
The ban, the soft ban.
Yeah, and so I kind of wanted to make a point this season, and I was like, okay, I want people in my division to draft those 140s, and I want to beat them with units that aren't that.
Yeah.
If that happens, I don't know. We'll see. But that was kind of how I felt. So
that was kind of my counter argument to the ban argument. Was basically, it's fun to just kind of out strategize those OP units, and because they all have weaknesses, and you just got to find them, and exploit them.
For sure. Well, guys, anything else you want to say before we call it a night here?
Well, I'm absolutely stoked that we're back for season 4. So thank you for putting this on and hosting it. And unfortunately, we won't be able to play you this season, but good luck in your league. And Taco, I will see you out there, and I will have my revenge.
I am sadly afraid that you just might.
Hell yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Looking forward to having you both on the video for season 5. The grand finalists. Cool, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hopping on here with me. I really appreciate it. I know the people watching
having us.
Probably enjoyed the commentary and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you guys very much. And everybody watching, you guys have a great night.
Peace.
See you later.